breaking news coming in at the top of the broadcast. A passenger has been killed and 30 others suffered injuries due to severe turbulence on a flight from London to Singapore today afternoon. Now, Singapore Airlines has confirmed the incident. The Singapore airline flight number SQ321, which took off from Heathrow Airport in London on Monday and was headed to Singapore, encountered severe turbulence en route. The aircraft was diverted to Bangkok's Suvarnabhumi International Airport. The plane was carrying about 221 passengers and 18 crew members on board. More details are awaited on the state of passengers, and the reason for the turbulence are also awaited. We are currently discussing what exactly happened on that Singapore airline. With me is my colleague Karthik Malhotra, joining her here in the studio. Karthik, hi. Run us through the details that have emerged so far.
Pretty horrifying details, Shweta, and this is a Singapore Airlines flight inbound from all the way Heathrow, London to Singapore, and mid-air around Bangkok is where apparently massive air pockets hit the aircraft, and that resulted in turbulence and fairly robust turbulence, and that has led to one person losing his life and at least another 30 to 33 people reportedly injured. Look at these visuals. I mean, these are unconfirmed visuals, passenger accounts. From what we understand, these are passengers in the Singapore Airlines SQ321, and I mean, no hope really in the passengers. They are taking to eventually folding their hands and praying. These are the kind of horrifying, scary visuals which have come in. And many more visuals are actually showing how passengers are literally bouncing in the air, hitting their heads on the ceiling and falling down. These are some of the visuals which Reuters has filed earlier today. And it seems that the aircraft lost, altitude from about 37,000 feet to about 31,000 feet. Losing a massive 6,000 feet in a span of about 6 minutes. Now, some of the pilot friends that I've spoken to and those who are aviation experts seem to believe that this sort of a dip is a sign of severe turbulence. Now, we really don't know at this point whether this turbulence is due to the fact that there has been inclement weather. If it was the case of weather, was there not enough communication between the airline and the nearest ATC informing the pilots about the inclement weather? And the traditional practice really is that any other aircraft which has flown in a patch of turbulence is supposed to inform on a certain channel to all the other aircraft in that vicinity of the possibility of turbulence, so that those pilots and hence the passengers are better informed and better prepared to manage turbulence. Now, at the same time, it is not always the weather. In fact, sometimes there is also a phenomena referred to as the clear air turbulence. And this clear air turbulence does not have much to do with clouds or with any other sort of weather which is more easy to manage and understand, but really happens when opposite jet streams clash with each other, and that results in the phenomena called clear air turbulence. Now, some of the pilots that we've spoken to before this broadcast have told us that there is obviously some weather which is not unexpected in that area around Bangkok over the skies of Thailand, and a weather possibility cannot really be ruled out. But at the same time, the fact that the aircraft was flying at 37,000 feet indicates that there is a possibility of clear air turbulence as well. The statement which has been released and has come in from Singapore Airlines also says that SQ321 encountered severe turbulence, and that severe turbulence is what has perhaps led to the loss of one life at least, and more than 30 passengers injured. Now, ambulances were waiting at the Bangkok Suvarnabhumi airport when the aircraft landed, and at that time, those ambulances were deployed to ferry passengers as required. Now, remember, the aircraft was carrying about 221 passengers and 18 crew on board, including the 2 pilots of Singapore Airlines. Now, what it seems at this moment is that perhaps a technical failure on account of Boeing. Remember, this was a Boeing 777-300ER aircraft. This is not part of the Boeing 737 MAX, MAX 8 or MAX 9, none of those variants. In fact, if you remember, the Boeing 737 MAX had actually encountered an episode mid-air on board an Alaska airline flight where a door plug had blown off. It did not result in any loss of life or massive injuries, but this was, of course, a serious security and safety lapse which is still under investigation. So, from what it seems, a technical failure on account of Boeing at this moment does not seem a probable cause of the turbulence.
All right, so you've packed in a lot of information out there for this benefit of our viewers who are hoping to know how are the passengers doing at the moment. We do know that the moment plane landed in Bangkok, there was an ambulance waiting, there were safety personnel on ground waiting. Any information on what happens to the rest of the 33 people who are injured at the moment? Are they being attended to?
I mean, they are definitely being attended to because of the fact that ambulances were parked at the Bangkok Swarnabhumi airport, and those ambulances have been used to ferry passengers to the nearest, available medical facility. Now, we really don't know the status of what those passengers are undergoing at the moment. Right now, all we know is that more than about 33 passengers have been injured, and we know for a fact that one passenger has lost his life.
All right, and you've spoken to some people that you know of in aviation. What are your sources telling you? What could be a probable cause of such a dip in altitude, Karthik? Was perhaps the pilot incapable to announce a turbulence? Could that have been one of the reasons why more than 30 people were injured?
So, it's difficult at this moment for anybody to pinpoint on exactly what happened mid-air, what was the conversation in the cockpit, and what was the communication made by the pilots to the passengers seated. But the fact that the aircraft did lose about 6,000, 7,000 feet, in altitude from about 37,000 feet coming down to under 31,000 feet in a span of 6 minutes, this is a steep decline. In aviation, you have, especially in commercial aviation, you have much narrower inclines where where the aircraft does not have to actually lose this altitude in such a short period of time. Now, it seems that 6 minutes is an expected window of severe turbulence, and the aircraft losing height is a function of turbulence which has led the aircraft to actually lose altitude and go down. Now, we really don't know at this point whether or not this was weather which caused this particular turbulence, or whether it was clear air turbulence and no indication of clouds building, whether a cumulonimbus CV or any other such weather notice.
All right, so nothing is confirmed for now. There will be an investigation in place. Singapore Airlines has in fact admitted that there was mid-air disturbance in the air, as a result of which aircraft lost about 600 to 700 feet in altitude. As it nosedived, people were injured. One passenger was killed and about 30 people are currently being hospitalized. They're being tended to. Captain Amit Singh, founder, Safety Matters Foundation, joining us on the show. Captain Singh, from what is emerging by the way of data and information, what can we ascertain so far? What really happened on that aircraft?
Well, we can't be so sure until the investigation is completed. But if we see the traffic around that route, there were other aircrafts flying, and nobody else reported any weather or turbulence of that sort, of this kind, which can basically injure so many people and kill one. So 600 feet loss of height is about, you can say, 60 stories, a 60-story building. So that is the kind of a height which the aircraft loses within seconds. So the aircraft drops. People who are not secured, or who have not fastened their seat belts, basically like ping pong balls, the aircraft drops, they hit the head on the roof, and the aircraft then climbs back, and they're again tossed around. So that is basically, a lot of people lose their life because of head injuries and spinal injuries. That is where the maximum accidents happen, and the injuries. It could also be caused due to non-weather related, any big aircraft flying in the vicinity which causes disturbance in the air, even though this was a 777, a big aircraft. But there have been cases of other aircraft causing such kinds of air disturbances. It all depends on how the air is moving at that place, at that point in time. So there are something called jet streams, streams of high velocity winds. But from the weather charts, we don't see anything of that sort. It could most probably indicate some clear air turbulence, which cannot be forecasted by weather satellites or other instruments. The pilots cannot see it on the weather radar, and it just comes within seconds, and the aircraft loses control.
All right. Thank you very much, Captain Singh, for taking time out, for joining in, for sharing those details with us. What we do know for a fact so far is that one passenger has been killed. About 30 others have suffered serious injuries due to the turbulence which was reported on a flight from London to Singapore. Now, Singapore Airlines has, of course, confirmed the incident. We don't know what led to the incident. Captain Singh, of course, talking about what could be the possible events that led to that turbulence that has resulted in one person dying and 30 are currently hospitalized.